I never imagined that I would willingly go into cold water at my age. But what happened next completely changed my perspective, and it taught me some life lessons that I wanted to share with you today. But first, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Carrie Stone, and this is Carrie On, where we talk all things money, movement, and mindset. And today, we're talking mindset because when it comes to doing hard things, it all begins in the mind. So it's New Year's Day, and I decided I was going to do a cold plunge. Why? I don't know. I got this idea that I just really wanted to start the new year doing something hard. And so at first I had convinced my husband to do it with me, but then he ended up not being here. And so I convinced a friend to do it with me. And I'm so glad I did because she has experience. She's done this before. And so having that accountability was really good for me. And so we did it. We survived. I did not die. My heart did not stop. Everything went just fine. But before you think this was so easy for me, it was not. I don't like being cold. I have Raynaud's syndrome where when my hands and my feet get cold, it is very, very painful. And sometimes it can take days before I'm warm again. So I was a little apprehensive about making this commitment to doing this cold plunge. But I just really felt like it was something I needed to do. And I have to say, I'm really, really glad I did it. But truth be told, last night I was ready to back out. Last night, had I been going with my husband and he tried to convince me not to go, I would have totally been swayed by him and I would not have done it. If I was going by myself, I probably would have convinced myself not to go. But because I had a commitment to someone else, I forced my way through it. I found the gumption within and I went and did it. And so, my first piece of advice is have accountability, have someone to go with you, because that really helped to give me the courage. Because I am not one to back out if I don't have to back out. So, I I used my obsession with accountability to give myself the kick that I needed to follow through and to go on this cold plunge. So make sure you have some accountability. The second thing that I wanted to share with you, if you've never done a cold plunge, is just study. Study what you can and get as prepared as you can. I researched all that I could on doing cold plunges in the Puget Sound. And I have to say, it helped me a lot to be prepared that way. And I talked to other people who had done cold plunges. And then I started doing some preparatory things myself. Like I started turning the hot water off the last 30 seconds of my shower and forcing myself to stand under the cold water for 30 seconds. That kind of started changing my brain and how I felt about being warm all the time. And recently, I met another woman who she does a cold bath every day for 2 minutes. And she just fills her tub with cold water, no ice or anything, and just sits in it for 2 minutes. I'm going to try that. Maybe not every day, but I am going to try that and see what I think about sitting in cold water for 2 minutes. But because of my experience today, I now have another date in 1 month to jump in cold water again. My goal this time will be to get to my chin before getting out. And one of the ways that I plan to do that is I realize I have to protect my feet. If my feet are too cold, that's what happened today. I jumped in the water and my feet immediately started shooting pain up my body because of the Raynaud's syndrome that I have. So I saw some really great water shoes on other people. And especially this one woman had this very attractive pair of water shoes on that were very fashionable, very me. So I'm going to try to find those, and I will have a better pair of shoes for my next cold plunge. And hopefully that will help with the foot pain. But if you've never considered doing a cold plunge before, I think it's worth looking at the health benefits. There are so many. It's supposed to improve your sleep quality. I can honestly say I am more awake today than I have ever been that I can remember in my adult life. I feel so awake and so ready to do anything today, which is good because I started a 25,000 step challenge today and I still have 10,000 steps to do. So that's helpful to feel more wide awake, but it's supposed to help with joint pain. It's also supposed to help with menopausal symptoms. And it made me think about my mom. My mom would never have done a cold plunge, but I was thinking back when she was in the midst of menopause and I was pregnant and I was, oh, I have a hair bothering me. Sorry. And I was visiting her in Delaware, and we it was the middle of winter and it was really cold, and we're driving down the highway, and she suddenly started having a hot flash, and she was like ripping her clothes off as she had the window all the way down. And if there had been a body of water available to her, I really do believe she would have gotten out of the car and jumped in it. So I think in that case, she totally would have tried a cold plunge. So if you're in the midst of menopause, this may be the time to try a cold plunge because it'll cool you down real quick. Let me tell you, really quick. Some other health benefits: it's supposed to reduce your stress and improve your mental clarity. Those are very helpful things. There are a list of health benefits that come with cold plunging. So maybe check it out, see what you think. Start just with the last 30 seconds of your shower and see if it changes your life. I can tell you, the last 30 seconds of my shower doing that cold, plus I implemented about a month ago, getting up first thing in the morning, brushing my teeth first thing, and then splashing my face 5 times with freezing cold water, that has really improved my life. I don't know why, but I just know it is very invigorating, and I don't spend the morning kind of going, trying to wake up like I used to. It's just been it's just been a really good addition to my morning routine. So try it out and see what happens for you. And maybe, like it did for me, it'll inspire you to try a cold plunge. Who knows? But whatever you do, if you do decide to try a cold plunge, I recommend you start slowly, implement things just over time, and prepare yourself. But what I really wanted to share with you today were some lessons that I learned from my first cold plunge that really have nothing to do with cold plunging and everything to do with just doing hard things and living life. So here I am with one of my daughter's best friends, and she has done cold plunges before. And she looked at me and she said, "Whatever you do, don't think, just do." And I said, "Okay, that's the opposite of what I usually tell people when I'm coaching them. I usually say, think things out." She said, "No, you can't think. You can't think about the water. You can't think about the cold. You just have to go." And she said, "And also, do not wade in. You just have to run in and embrace it." And I thought, isn't that life? When you're doing hard things, don't think about it. Just do it. Just go. And don't wade into the water. Just jump in. Go for it and get your whole head and everything under there. Just take the plunge. And I thought that was just such great life lessons. So as you're doing hard things, don't think about it and don't wade into the water. Get on that diving board, dive in there, and just let that cold water wash over you and come out a changed person. Well, as my friend was telling me these things, there was another experienced cold plunger standing there. And she said, yeah, you just have to make it 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, it gets easier. And I thought, again, as a life lesson, that's how it is when you're doing hard things. It's always hardest first. It's always hardest when you're first jumping in. But it gets easier the more you do it. I'll never forget the first video I did and how overwhelming it was and how intimidating it was and how little I knew. And I still know so little in comparison to other people who have been doing this for a while. But the thing is, I'm learning day by day, and it's not as hard now as it was. And every time it's getting easier. So when you do hard things, it might be hard at first, but it gets easier the longer you stay in. So stay in. Another lesson I learned was the importance of accountability. As I said earlier, I think I would have backed out if I hadn't had somebody going with me. So it's like that in anything that you're doing. Have someone you are accountable to, because accountability helps to keep pulling you forward. And that way, when you're feeling weak, maybe they're feeling strong, and vice versa. So whatever you do, have some accountability, because that will help you to keep moving forward and doing harder things. And lastly, I was really overtaken by how many people were at this cold plunge who weren't participating in it, but they were there to support someone who was. And I thought that was beautiful, because sometimes we're not ready for the hard things, but we can be a support to someone who is doing the hard things. Like and I'm not saying my sister and my best friend don't do hard things in their lives, because they do, but they have been a great support to me while I've been doing my YouTube channel. And I don't know what I would have been doing these last few months without their support. But what I've noticed with both of them is the more they've been supporting me, the harder things they've been doing too. And I think it's because like attracts like. And if you hang out with people who are doing hard things, you will be more likely to do hard things. If you're hanging out with people who don't do anything out of their comfort zone, you will never do anything out of your comfort zone. So find those supportive people. And if you aren't ready to do the harder things, be that supportive person, because by supporting others who are doing hard things, you will be inspired to do something hard, and you will have the confidence and the support and the accountability that you need in order to do it. So those were just some life lessons that I learned, but I want to say something about cold plungers. I met the most amazing people today. I was just blown away by how nice everyone was. But the other thing I was really blown away by is the fact that I watched toddlers do this cold plunge, and I watched people in their 80s doing this cold plunge. But the one woman I was most impressed by was, she had to probably be 75 or 80. And she was really helpful before the plunge began, and really sweet and really nice. But after the plunge was over, we were drying off and standing by the fire, and she bent over to wipe the sand off of her feet. And when she did, her bathing suit fell open, and I could see a scar across her chest. And she had a missing breast. And I almost just wanted to cry standing there watching. It still kind of gets to me. But I was so motivated by her, because she has already been through something so incredibly hard. But not only did she not give up, she's out there today doing hard things, testing herself, pushing her boundaries, embracing life. So, what are you going to do this year in 2025 that's hard? What are you going to do that pushes your boundaries? What are you doing now that is going to push you into the next season, the next level of your life? I would really love to know about what hard things are on your horizon, because it excites me to hear what other people are doing, and I get motivated by it. So I would love to be motivated by the hard things that you're doing this year. And if you liked this video, would you consider hitting that like button? And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love to have you here on this channel, learning and growing with you. And if you want to just take a look at some other hard things I've done, I'll share my 15,000 step challenge and my 20,000 step challenge while I'm in the midst of my 25,000 step challenge. And until next time, carry on.